You're listening to the We Are Voices for Life podcast. Get ready for another compelling episode on the pro-life ethic.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of We Are Voices for Life podcast. And we are actually in the middle of a series called Stories for Life. And today we have another compelling story from a beautiful sister. Her name is Kelly McGuire. And Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today. It's interesting that I was just with you a few hours ago. It's interesting how you and
Yes.
I met. And so
Yes.
I just want to welcome you. Thank you for joining us and wanting to share your story with us. And so I'm just going to turn it over to you, let you introduce yourself and tell us your story.
Okay. My name's Kelly McGuire, and I am a 51-year-old woman. I am a business owner. I have a commercial cleaning business. It is called Kelly's Commercial Cleaning Services. I
Nice.
am also employed by the YMCA. I just became their cleaning services coordinator um,
Nice.
about a year ago, so that's amazing. I have three children, adult children, Rayana, Rodale, and Paris. I also have four grandchildren.
Oh,
But
nice.
just to touch a little bit on, because you were talking about how we met, that was
Mm-hmm.
just God.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
just turned me around on Midlothian and put me right in your path. And I just think that that is absolutely amazing. And then to be in the Sisters for Life today and seeing you and all these amazing women that I already know. I posted on Facebook just
Mm-hmm.
sitting there with my hand on my face like this and just saying, God just put me in a room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just amazing how he is just clicking things together for something that is so important, like Sisters for Life and Voices for Life. It's just um
Amen.
I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it. It's really giving me purpose. So I just
And
want to share
I
that.
I appreciate that because the thing is my husband and I are involved in this campaign 40 days for life, and we were standing out in front of Planned Parenthood praying to end abortion, and we have all these cars, zooming past us, and a lot of them are giving us, beeps of support, and then here comes Kelly, who whips the car around and she said, "Where y'all been all my life? This is what I'm supposed to be doing."
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we had been kind of chatting, and we became friends on Facebook, and she's sharing my posts, I'm sharing hers, and then I show up at a meeting, an event today, a pro life event, and then I walk right into Kelly. So these are what I call God ordained moments where
Absolutely.
you really, like, part of what I spoke about earlier is this, we all really just had to surrender and say, God, what do
Right.
you want us to do? And then he does the rest, and he just starts connecting the dots. And you,
Connecting the
Kelly, are
dots.
one of those dots. And I don't know
Woo!
what you plan on sharing today. What you shared at the brunch was very powerful. I don't know if that's what you want to share
Absolutely.
today, but whatever you want to share, I want to hear from you. You have a very compelling story.
Sure. So I will start with that story
Mm-hmm.
about my daughter Rayana. I got pregnant with Rayana in 1991
Mm-hmm.
and
How old were you?
m- 16.
Okay.
I was 16 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and my father, he wasn't in my life on a permanent basis. He was kind of
Mm-hmm.
like in and out.
Mm-hmm.
We really didn't have a fantastic. I was a daddy's girl, but my father did not treat me
Yeah.
good at all.
Yeah.
But so when my mother showed him our sonogram of the baby, I
Mm-hmm.
could remember it like it was yesterday. We were standing and I was laying in bed and they were standing in the hallway and he's like, "What's that?" And she was like, "This is our grandbaby." And
Mm-hmm.
he had a fit. He was like, "I don't care if I got to move across the ocean. I don't want to be bothered with a baby. She's not having
Mm-hmm.
this baby." And
Mm-hmm.
so, that kind of dissipated, and we left that alone. And then
Mm-hmm.
um one night he just came to pick me up, and he took me to Giant Eagle on Belmont Avenue. And when
Mm-hmm.
we got inside the store, he told me that I can get whatever I wanted, whatever you're craving for, whatever food you want to get it,
Mm-hmm.
because um, you're getting an abortion.
Wow.
So, being that that was my dad,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know,
Yeah.
I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't know.
Yeah.
Um, but I can remember going over to the candy, all the candy, and just
Mm-hmm.
putting all these like red fish and chocolates and stuff in this bag.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember getting a pumpkin pie and some whipped cream, but like, because I'm here today and like, these
Mm-hmm.
things are starting to come back to me, and
Sure.
early I was thinking like, you justified
Mm.
me possibly getting an abortion with some food,
Yeah. Amazing.
you know? And
Yeah.
um, so we
Wow.
got to my house, and he told my mother she's getting an abortion. I'm making the appointment for her. And I did not know right from wrong. This is my dad. He's not going to tell me anything that's going to harm me. I didn't really even
Mm-hmm.
know anything about abortion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Yeah.
so it began a feud. It began
Mm-hmm.
warfare, really. My mother had just got saved a few years before that, thank God,
Okay.
because she
Okay.
was able to
Yes.
get to she was able to get to the courts of heaven about her
Yes.
baby and her unborn grandchild. So
Yes.
her church,
Wow.
Highway Tabernacle at the time, they
Mm-hmm.
prayed. And
Mm.
my father called me one day and he said, "We got the appointment. The appointment is set." My mother had scripture plastered all over our house. Sometimes she would just start calling me a murderer. I did not
Mm.
know,
Mm.
like, I was just in a war. It was just a
Yeah.
crazy time for me
Wow.
as a teenager, having no clue. She's calling me a
Yeah.
murderer. She's telling me to keep my baby. My dad's telling me to kill my baby. My
Mm-hmm.
mother had me sit down with my kid's father, who was a dope boy at the time.
Wow. Oh
Kelly's
my
getting an
gosh.
abortion. He's saying, no, I'm gonna take care of my baby. It
Mm-hmm.
was just not a good time for me. I just didn't know
Chaos.
what to do.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
closer to the time to get my abortion, closer to the time to my appointment,
Mm-hmm.
my doctor was Yusha Sethi, and Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Sethi called, and she said to my mother, "Your daughter cannot get this procedure, because not only will the fetus die, but your
Mm-hmm.
daughter will die, because
Mm.
I had what was considered placenta previa. So
Okay.
my placenta sac was before my child. So there was no way really for them. It
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have worked.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother started praising God right there on the phone. She started praising God. I got on the phone with Dr. Sethi. She said, "You cannot do this." So I
Mm-hmm.
remember my mother calling my father, and her exact words was, "Kelly cannot get this abortion, because not only will our grandchild die, but your daughter will die."
Wow.
And he said right away, "She's not getting it." So
Okay.
when I look at, so my Rayana is 34 years old. Rayana is 34
Wow.
years old. What she was in my womb at the time, she is right now. She was
Right
all
now.
of that there. So, in other
Mm-hmm.
words, and she's a lover of Christ. She's a woman of
Wow.
God. She works for the kingdom. She's very sweet and
Mm-hmm.
very kind and very meek. And I was going to
Mm-hmm.
terminate that. I was going to kill her. So, that's something to think about when you're going to get an
Mm-hmm.
abortion, or
Mm-hmm.
you're going to take these pills to have an
Mm-hmm.
abortion. It's a baby. Rayana is living
Mm-hmm.
proof. Rayana Rochelle McGuire, 34 years old, is living proof that if I would have went through with that abortion, I was killing my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So, go ahead.
No,
Oh, I
go
thought you had
ahead.
a question. Okay.
No, no.
So
Now, okay, let me
fast.
just ask you this. Let me ask you this. When what's her name? Rihanna, when
Uh-huh.
she was born, did you have any conversation with your father after that, or have you, what was your father's thoughts after your baby was born?
He did not want to be bothered with the baby. He did not
Okay.
see my daughter until she was like 2 months.
Okay.
And then he fell in love with her.
Yeah. Yeah.
He fell in
Isn't that
love with
something?
Rihanna.
Mm-hmm.
Rihanna was his baby, and that was her papa. And it was
Mm-hmm.
just like that, you know. But he did
Hmm.
not want me when my mother was pregnant with me. He did not want me. And he made that very clear to me a lot in my life. And he had paid for several abortions. So
Wow.
his decision, he was putting that burden on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
He thought that that was the thing to do. I mean, anything could have happened to me at 16 years old.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Anything could have happened to me. But because my mother prayed and see God intervened. He intervened and he turned my placenta around
Yes.
so
Yep.
that I could not get that abortion. And then the church prayed again and he intervened again and then he straightened Rihanna out just like that. It was God who did
Wow.
that.
Wow.
So fast forward, my life was very chaotic. I became a drug addict
Mm.
at the age of 21. I started cocaine. By the age of 28, I was doing heroin. I was on drugs for 15 years. I was a heroin 4 years. And it was just a terrible time for me.
Mm.
Um, in 1997, so I wasn't doing any of those heavy drugs yet. But
Okay.
in 1997, I met a guy, and I ended up getting pregnant by him.
Okay.
And um, my my children's father, um, my first two children's father, I have three children, as I
Mm-hmm.
said. So
Mm-hmm.
two by one guy, one
Mm-hmm.
by another.
Mm-hmm.
When I had my third child, my kid's father from prison, he was in prison. He did 12 years in the penitentiary. From prison, he told me, don't have any more kids.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got pregnant, that was my first thought. He told
Mm-hmm.
me not to have any more kids. On
Mm-hmm.
top of that, I just was in a place I had nothing. I mean, I
Yeah.
had a house. My mother bought me and my children a house, but I was just oppressed all the time. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
people I was hanging with were not, I was just, nothing was good in my life. And
Mm-hmm.
all the reasons that we come up with. I'm not going to be able to take care of another baby. I don't want to have another baby. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my children's father told me not to have another
Mm-hmm.
baby.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for that reason, I
Mm-hmm.
made it up in my mind early that I
Mm-hmm.
was getting an abortion. And so this gentleman that I was pregnant by, I kept telling him, you better, he had a girlfriend, you better get that money here, or if I have this baby's gonna be on your porch. There was no connection
Yeah.
with this baby, none.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so one day I was at a bar on South Avenue, Bullwinkles, and
Mm-hmm.
I was 4 months pregnant. And he came in that bar and he laid all that money on the counter. He just put it in front of me. And I balled it up and put it in my purse
Mm-hmm.
and called to make my appointment. Now, at 4 months, every morning, my baby would ball up on the right side of my stomach. Every morning, like clockwork, I
Mm-hmm.
would feel that. And even though there was no connection,
Yeah.
I would rub
Yeah. Yeah.
the knot.
Mm-hmm.
So I made my appointment to get my abortion. My mother was beside herself. She did
Yeah.
not want me to do it. She's
Yeah.
been saved for years now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So she tells me that she sat across, I got my abortion at the Women's Center on Market Street, which is no
Mm-hmm.
longer there.
Yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm. That
The
place.
women were standing there with their signs, with the fetuses and their signs, don't kill the baby and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
My mother tells me her story that she sat in the parking lot where Dollar General and all that is. She sat there for
Mm-hmm.
hours from the wee hours of the morning, praying, 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 walking around that building, praying. Um, I remember when I got there, I seen my mother, um, but I really, I couldn't focus. I don't even
Yeah.
want to talk.
Yeah.
I just, she tells me that she remembers going in the building, going up on the elevator, and she just stood
Mm.
outside the elevator and she could hear like the
Mm.
workers in the
Mm-hmm.
clinic talking and laughing.
Wow.
Um, she said that she went and prayed around the dumpster because somebody told her that they throw the babies in the dumpster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but he didn't answer her prayer that
Yeah.
day. And I remember going to the clinic, going in, they took me in a room, they put me on this table. Really quick, they did a sonogram and I seen the baby. They put the
Mm-hmm.
thing right on my stomach, I guess to see where the baby was at.
Mm-hmm.
She seen the baby, it was just real quick because I guess they don't want you to,
Yeah.
don't want you to
Yeah.
change your mind.
That's right.
So really quickly, she took the thing off, turned the sonogram off.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was taken to another room. It wasn't, there was gnats
Mm.
where they did the sonogram. I remember gnats flying around. Then they took me to another room. She gave me a gown and I put the gown on and then I sat and waited. And then they came in and got me and they took me in this other room where the procedure was going to take place at. It was bright in there, but it was small. And they
Mm-hmm.
put me on this table and two nurses came from this side room and they were explaining to me that they were going to give me a medication and that I
Okay.
wasn't going to feel anything, but they didn't wait. It's like as
Mm.
soon as they gave me the medication, that doctor was right there and I felt
Mm.
everything and I
Everything.
heard everything,
Everything.
everything, all of it. And I said that I feel that, but they
Mm-hmm.
didn't. Oh, it's gonna be quick. It's gonna be quick.
Mm.
So I was just
Yeah.
laying there. I don't really too much remember anything after that in that room because
Mm-hmm.
after a while what they should have let set in started to set in after
Yeah.
everything was already done. My stomach was cramping so bad. I
Mm-hmm.
remember being so nauseous. They took me in another room, just like somebody spoke about today, the recovery room, where there were
Mm-hmm.
other women in there who had already had a procedure. And
Mm-hmm.
we were all just laying there. We were all just laying there. Then they brought me some crackers and told me to put my clothes on and I went home and I was nauseous. I vomited a lot when I got home. I was just so
Mm-hmm.
sick. And I remember the next morning laying in my bed, not really realizing what I had done.
Yeah.
And literally that same sensation of the baby balling up on the right side of my stomach
Mm.
happened. So my body was still in pregnancy
Still.
mode.
Yeah.
It was prematurely taken out of what it naturally does.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that on the right side of my stomach and I just bawled. I mean,
Yeah.
I just balled up in the
Yeah.
fetal position and I just
Mm-hmm.
cried and just held my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
I that was so I did the math and I never wanted to know the age of my child. I believed that
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna have a daughter.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because that was too much for me to handle. I remember one
Sure.
year my mother called me. I was driving on the freeway and my mother called me. She said, "Well, the baby would have been 5 years old today." And
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Mommy,
Mm-hmm.
don't ever. I can't put time to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't think about it like that."
It was too
Um,
painful. It's very
it was
painful.
too painful. And so never really I just have to say the Lord never really let me get into a guilt stage or a remorseful stage. Like I said, after that, I was on drugs for 15 years. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and that at that point, I wasn't allowed to think about a whole lot of stuff.
I was going to
Um,
mention that when someone's in active addiction, you really don't feel, and
no,
a lot of times you don't feel it until you get clean. And so that's why when
yes,
your mom wanted to remind you of birthdays and everything, that's a touchy subject, and you don't necessarily feel that until you're clean, and then it all comes down on you at one time.
all comes down on you at one time. And so, I can remember just a couple years ago,
Hmm.
I was listening to Moody Radio, and there was
Okay.
like every weekend, I think there
Hmm.
were like different gatherings of women who were against abortion, and they were telling their testimonies about how they
Okay.
had given abortions, and um, they were very loud,
Hmm.
and some of them hadn't had abortions, but they were against it. And so
Yeah.
I really it started to annoy me because in my mind I'm
Hmm.
thinking like, they're like, you're a murderer, and I'm like,
Mm.
I'm a grown woman at this is years, this is just a
Yeah.
couple years ago, and
Yeah.
something came over me, and I pulled in my driveway, I was shaking, and I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried,
Hmm.
because I guess at that moment I realized, like, dang,
Hmm.
you really killed your child.
Hmm.
You can't undo that. You killed
Yeah.
your baby. And then
Yeah.
thinking, like your mom said, your baby was 5 at this, like,
Yeah.
and then looking at my life, a business owner,
Yeah.
nice things,
Yeah.
grown children and grandchildren. I would have been fine.
Hmm.
God would have
Yeah.
provided. And my mother kept
Yeah.
telling me that.
Hmm.
At the time, she was like, God is going to provide for you. And I'm like, Mom, I do not want to hear nothing about God's going to provide for me. I'm
Yeah.
getting an abortion.
Yeah.
I just didn't care.
Hmm.
But if I could say that, you know, that's a warfare in itself.
Yeah.
And just like when I was on drugs and I was a slave to that thing,
Yeah.
I was not allowed to think about what mattered. I wasn't allowed to
Right.
think that I mattered. If
Hmm.
my children cried, that did not matter to me. When my dad
Hmm.
said you're unrecognizable to me, that did not matter to me because I was a slave.
Yeah.
So the same thing for a woman or even a man that thinks we killing the baby, or a woman, I'm just getting an abortion.
Hmm.
You're blinded to that. You're
Yeah.
blinded to that. The
Yeah.
enemy is working overtime in that because,
Yeah.
like I said, I was gonna kill Rihanna. And Rihanna
Yeah.
is exactly what we are birthed to be,
Hmm.
a lover of Christ,
Hmm.
made in his
Wow.
image.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So the
Yes.
enemy works overtime on
You
that
said
when
something
things like
very,
that
very
happen.
well. That you said that very well. The enemy is working overtime, and just if we could contrast when you were 16 and the voices that you had talking to you and then as an adult, and you were, in a drug addictive state, and the voice that you heard. So there was a voice that you heard when you were 16. You were kind of confused. You didn't know. God actually intervened and said, no, you're not doing it. And
Yes,
then
he did.
as you were an adult, like you said, the enemy was working overtime. And even though you had your mom's voice, that guy's voice in prison was the voice that
The
registered.
voice I heard.
And when I met you, when we were standing on the sidewalk on Midlothian, I remember you saying, sometimes if the woman makes it to the abortion clinic, her mind is already made up because the enemy is working overtime in that. And that really struck me because we do spend a lot of time at the abortion clinics, and we do pray that the woman will change her mind, but you kind of laid it all out there to what's actually going on in the woman's mind when they're already at the abortion clinic. And we could reach them before they get there
Before, yep,
would be awesome, which is not always the case. So I want anybody who's listening to this or watching it or whatever. I want them to understand that spiritual warfare that you're talking about, and because like you didn't even recognize it until it was over, and then it all
yep,
came down on you. And I will
yep,
say, I want to make sure that we say this, that you are forgiven, and that you are a believer in Christ, and he did save you, and you are forgiven. And sometimes there needs to be healing that comes
yeah,
after, but we don't want anybody to walk around in condemnation. If you've had an
yeah,
abortion, and you really were very vulnerable with us right now and sharing that
mhm,
information. And so I just want people to know that if this is you have a similar story, that there is redemption and forgiveness in Christ. And if you have already asked for forgiveness, then you don't walk in condemnation.
yeah,
And if you are walking around, you have received God's forgiveness, but you're struggling. There are places out there. I know the pregnancy help centers, they do a great job of post-abortive counseling, because sometimes people, even decades ago, like yourself, like you're sharing this, decades ago they've had an abortion, and it's still something that they need to heal from. Even though they've been forgiven and they are serving the Lord now, they sometimes do need that post-abortive counseling.
sure.
So what do you think? Let's just say there's another Kelly McGuire out there, who is thinking like how you were, like you had separated yourself from the baby, even though you felt the baby, and you were patting the baby, but you still knew, I don't have anything to offer. What would you say to that young woman?
Just hold on.
Mm,
Don't do it.
mm-hmm,
Don't do it. There is no reason. There's no valid reason to kill your child. No
mm-hmm,
valid reason.
mm-hmm,
There are too many resources
mm-hmm.
for a woman with a child, if you don't want it, or he
That's
doesn't,
true.
whatever the circumstances,
Mm-hmm,
there are too many resources available for that baby. The
mm-hmm,
baby deserves to live, because when I was watching you and Jessica,
mm-hmm,
Jessica said, I killed a generation.
mm-hmm,
And when I heard her, I was talking to I said, dang, Jessica,
mm-hmm.
I killed a generation.
Wow.
So when you're thinking abortion, you're killing a generation. That's huge. And a
Yep.
generation, and a generation, and a generation.
Mm-hmm,
You're killing
mm-hmm,
generations
mm-hmm,
of a line
mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
human beings,
Yep.
not just one. You're killing hundreds or thousands a generation.
Isn't that
Don't do
something?
it.
Yeah,
Is
that's
crazy to
very
me.
good. It's
That blew
excellent.
my mind.
That's
That
excellent.
is
Mm-hmm.
something that maybe can be stressed because
Mm-hmm.
if 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 I would have been watching that podcast 27 years ago
Yeah.
and Jessica Rosario said, I killed a generation, that probably
Mm-hmm.
would have stopped me dead in my tracks. It wouldn't have mattered
Mm-hmm.
what my kid's father said. Because
Wow.
we were only together a
Yeah.
little bit when he came home anyway. So when you're with a
Yeah.
man and he's like, he got a girl and he don't want you to have the baby or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta tell him, you gotta give him he gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
God will provide for you, or you can give
Yes.
your baby up for adoption, but let
Yeah.
that baby live.
Live.
Let that baby live.
Wow. I think that I'm sure actually that there's going to be many opportunities for you to be in front of, I'm thinking of all kinds of scenarios where women need to hear you. They need to hear Jessica Rosario. They need to hear the statistics. They need to hear
Yes.
the truth of killing a baby is killing generations. Like,
Killing
you know, you and I are
generations.
here because our great 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 grandma gave birth to you know, and so now here
Our
we
pa-
are.
yes,
So
exactly.
I really think that is that's a truth that we need to lead with, because
Yeah.
it struck me the first time I heard that and I realized that, and then I heard Jessica. She said I could be a grandma right now.
Yeah.
So it's very compelling. And so I thank you for coming on to this podcast. I thank you for being so vulnerable to share that. I know it was very difficult for you to share that, and at times maybe still walking through some of those things that, you know, decisions that you made, and being
Sure.
willing to share that, you know. So I just want to thank you, Kelly, for
Yes,
I thank
ma'am.
God for bringing us together. I know
Man,
that we're going to be working shoulder to shoulder
absolutely.
in this movement. You have so much
Yes.
wisdom. You have so much power behind your words that I think is going to really
Yes.
be very significant in this movement, in our pro-life movement. So, and I'm grateful that you have been brought into our lives, into this movement. So I thank you for your time
Absolutely.
today,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
for being on our podcast. And so, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to We Are Voices for Life podcast, and another episode of our Stories for Life from Kelly McGuire. And there's going to be more to come. And so, thank you again for tuning in, and we will see you at our next episode. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Voices for Life podcast. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share with a friend. And you can visit us at voicesforlife.net. Have a blessed day.